There's a thin line between heroism and madness.
Here the line fades to nothing at all. This is a world of capes and lunatics.
And nothing is off limits.
No, the Batusi is this. No, you don't do this. That's because the Watusi is this. You see, that's the Watusi. So the Batusi, it's the that, but you add the fingers, and that's what makes it a Batusi. Do you guys know nothing of classical '60s dance?
Welcome to episode 8.1 of Capes and Lunatics, part 1 of our Spider-Man Homecoming review. And if you heard Charlie Esser in the background, if you watch, you'll know that on YouTube you can see me dancing to the music, but I guess not well.
Yeah. No, but see, that explains to people why they have to, because this is now video, man. It's not just audio anymore. There's like physical comedy. You've got to tune in on YouTube, like and hit the little bell. Two things to do now, kids, as well as comment to get all of the important Capes and Lunatics information.
So anyway, I am Phil, the white man with no rhythm. The other white man is Charlie Esser.
Charlie, the Professor Esser, Professor of Dance.
Lord of the Dance.
It is just me, Lilith, trying to keep it together because we're doing another Marvel movie.
Oh.
Well, I'm sorry, Lilith. You have a little while to wait.
A really long while.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and you don't want to hear what I heard the people saying about the trailer for Justice League outside the movie today.
Probably the same thing I said.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say.
Well, you know,
another Marvel movie, Lilith. Oh, we have to review another good movie. Well, I shouldn't say that.
Well, actually, they weren't bad. They just felt the trailer was, you know, it was, as the guy said, it was just explosions in 70s rock.
Get Michael Bay on it then,
Yeah, you know, it's and the guy said, it looks good, but he just said, I don't see anything that's making me want to see it. You know, they give Ben Affleck a good joke. No, actually, no, they did give Aquaman a good joke. I can't remember that actor's name, where he says, he says, "Oh, dressed like a bat." I get it. That's a good joke. I mean, that was. If they keep up that level of deadpan humor, I think Justice League could really, really do something good here.
It was really weird. Like, our movie started like 10 or 12 minutes late. And then I don't know if it's because there was a problem or something, but then we only got like 2 trailers. We got the Dark Tower trailer and the Jumanji trailer.
I got so many trailers. Like that horror movie, Wish Upon. I got Jumanji. I got so many of them.
Jumanji looks like fun, and Dark Tower looks amazing.
Are they doing the? I'm assuming they're doing the 3, because that book.
I think. Awesome. Oh, of course.
Especially no, from what I read, this is actually completely different from the books. This is like a story that takes place outside of the book canon. Like this is like, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a prequel or a sequel to the books.
Okay.
Wait,
what I heard.
But not
they're still at least going to squeeze 3 out.
Yeah.
3 or more out.
Maybe 4. With the last one in the 2.
Yeah. And at least that's what I heard. And these are rumors. And as we all know about internet rumors, they're all completely wrong.
Not always. So, you got to have your sources. Depends on who said it. If it's like comic book resources, forget it. Yeah. Shots fired. Oh. Shots fired. Yeah, or comic book list, because they're getting on my nerve with those 15 listicles.
Yes, everyone does listicles now. It's all thanks to Cracked.
Anyway, poor Phil. What's on the agenda today?
Wait, Spider-Man. Agenda. Wait. I have to issue a mea culpa to the Great Lilith Hellfire. Okay, because last episode I had gone into a whole thing about how I thought making Jughead asexual was a mistake. Now, as you may or may not know, I did pick up this week's Jughead. I don't know if it came out last week or this, but I did. That was an amazing book. That's written by a friend of the show, Mark Waid, if I recall correctly. And it is a fantastic book. It is, and I got the whole, his asexuality makes perfect sense in this context. Here's what it is. And, my thing about being down on the asexual angle in storytelling stems completely from that Matt LeBlanc series on Showtime. I'm forgetting what it was called.
Not Friends.
It was called Episodes. Yeah, which I loved Episodes. And he made this point about making a character. It was actually about making a character gay, and about how if a show runs for a long time and you remove the sexual tension, it's going to put you in a really difficult point of order telling the story forward. Now, of course, I should have realized that you're taking advice from Matt LeBlanc. That's not the guy to take advice from. So I'm basing it on that, and I see now how actually having to work around it makes for an even better story. And so I am so 100% on Jughead right now. I love that book. I will probably pick it up again because you made an Archie fan out of me, Lilith. Congratulations.
Phil, you're next.
Your work here is done.
This is just going to turn into Archie's podcast. That's my secret devious plan here.
I'm down with that. I just got to figure. I'm just nervous about getting into that more dramatic stuff with Betty, and mark my words, she's in a wheelchair. You're gonna have her.
The writers really have been really great exploring different dynamics and stuff, and it's never permanent, so don't worry about it.
Well, no, but I'm gonna say you're gonna get her at least a year with FDR crutches. That it's going to be, you're going to get that progression, and eventually, because this is the age of physical therapy and wonderful surgery. We even saw James Rhodes, doing the walk by the end of it. And we know from, Doctor Strange that apparently his spine was crushed in that whole incident, and they're still covering it up. They're still covering up what happened at Berlin. Cause they said, it was a testing experiment. And it's no, he got shot by the Vision.
Oh, that Marvel timeline. You gotta love it.
But speaking of Marvel timelines, we open just after Avengers this movie.
Oh yeah.
That yeah. Spoilers. Warning, heavy spoilers. But yeah, it opens up when they're cleaning up after that that Chitauri invasion.
It's gonna get real when Time Daily rolls in, yo.
Yeah, as the head of damage control. I mean, how awesome is this? And I'm just going to say this right now. Time Daily is not above doing TV. We're going to get damage control locking horns with Phil Coulson on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. next
Dude,
season.
as long as Amy Brenneman can be her daughter, I'm so down for that. Yes, that is a Judging Amy reference.
Okay. I'm sure they'll make it happen. Because they know each other. Once you know someone, you get them in, Yeah, that's how it works in movies.
I mean, he already saw it Thursday night, but the minute they mentioned damage control, I just heard Rob Southgate go, yes!
But you see that now, it's interesting. Damage control is a joint venture. It's a public-private partnership between Stark International or Stark Industries and the federal government, which makes this point so clear about. I was so waiting for J. Jonah. Is anyone else mad? Like livid angry. We do not have a J. Jonah Jameson in this. Not even a J. Jonah Jameson pastiche. Because
it just seems like in the modern tellings and retellings. Do you think they're shifting away from the whole newspaper aspect because they're newspapers, that's the 20th century.
Yeah, but you could do Bugle Media
website or something. Yeah.
Well, no, Bugle Media they do in the cartoons. Bugle Media, all the news that you need to know. You know,
J. Jonah Jameson, the king of all media.
Yes. Oh, I love him. He is amazing in that. But here's the thing about it is this Spider-Man is a menace. This Spider-Man 100%, and for what it's worth, I guess the whole point of this is that they wanted, because one of the things I was reading an interview with the writers of it said was like, look, this is the 5th version of Spider-Man we've had in like the last 2 decades, you know? And they said, we went in and we had a list of all the things we did not want in this. We don't want him swinging between buildings down a Manhattan street. We don't want him doing this. We don't want him doing that. Because we didn't want to do everything that everyone had already seen. And I can imagine that in that way, J. Jonah Jameson wound up on the ash heap of history. I'm hoping we're going to get a Jameson character later on. Maybe. But, you know, like I said, this was a time where you needed someone to point out that Spider-Man was a menace. Because he was a menace in this. He is really, and not for nothing, didn't he sign the Segovia Accords? How is Iron Man using him if he's not a signatory to the Accords? That was a little weird to me. Is it because,
well, one, is it because he's a minor, acting kind of as his guardian, and 2, he knows his identity. Remember, like in the comic books, the original Civil War is about, you know, the people had to unmask and register. Well, he knows who Peter Parker is.
Well, yes, I know, but still, Tony Stark's not in charge of the Sokovia Accords.
Maybe not to jump too far ahead, but maybe that's what he was doing at the end when he offered him Avengers membership. Maybe.
Oh, and so he would have had to unmask, because I was actually thinking that was actually, but they didn't make it explicit because I was waiting for him to say. At least he tell everyone I'm Peter Parker and I'm the Spider-Man.
Even if he didn't tell them his identity, maybe he, you know, if they just had to tell the government his identity, but you know, if he was on the Avengers, he'd be more official.
Mm-hmm. So what you're suggesting is that Tony Stark, in violation of the Segovia Accords, the entire premise of Civil War, he went and recruited an underage superhuman to fight Captain America. Basically, what we're saying is Tony Stark employs child soldiers. He's a menace to society. Basically, what we're saying is Adrian Toomes was right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those rich guys.
You know, he's going to say, based on what I just said right now, I'm kind of glad we didn't get Oscorp in this. Because I was now, hey, was that guy supposed to be the guy that was doing all the tech? Was that supposed to be the Tinkerer?
I think so.
I thought so too.
Yeah. I was waiting for him to have his job interview at Oscorp as an end credit scene, because he was the one guy that didn't get caught. Mm-hmm. You know.
So yeah, I mean, we got the Vulture. I'm pretty sure that was the Tinkerer. We got, 2 versions of the Shocker. Yeah. And did you catch the Miles Morales shout out?
Of course.
It wasn't. What do you mean?
Well, they didn't mention him when Donald Glover said, when he says he has a nephew who lives in the neighborhood. Oh, because his name was Aaron Davis, and Aaron Davis in the Ultimate Universe was Miles Morales' uncle.
See, I need to read more.
And the Prowler in that universe, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought Donald did a good job.
Well, see, here's my thing. I mean, Charlie, you were saying about how they were saying, we didn't want to do anything we did in all the previous Spider-Man movies. Well, in every movie, he starts out in high school. I'm like, why did we have to? I mean, I kind of understand story-wise why we had to do that, but why couldn't we just start with an adult Peter Parker?
Because they've done an adult Peter Parker. Because even though he started in high school, he was always, you know, he was a pretty adult guy. You know, he always started as a senior in high school. This time we're starting. Yeah, this time he's a sophomore dating a senior. Hello.
Reject that premise.
Yeah. Hey, I was a freshman and I dated a junior, so it can be done. It can be done. And this is
You have the animal
high.
magnetism of a Charlie Esser.
Well, yeah. Hey, you know what? That was when I had my plum zoot suit. Made of crushed rayon. It was gorgeous with a color block shirt. This was, a big dance, and and there was this cute girl from Ladywood who loved the fact that I danced. Think I'm joking about dancing. If you knew me back in the day, you would know that Charlie, he's a dancer. Just like John Belushi, man.
He showed her those 2 E's.
Oh, that's poor quality.
Okay. It's getting dangerously close.
Hey, well, this is a high school movie. We got to reminisce about our own high school experience.
Teenage romps. Uh-huh.
All right, and you know
this
what?
This was a straight up comedy at times too. Like straight up.
Just run into this scene of a crime because he had no buildings to swing from.
I did like that. I was like, oh, he's in the suburbs. Poor thing.
I'm like, oh, Ferris Bueller.
Well,
and then
they did the direct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, and Ned Leeds was totally Gank because back in the day, Gank was all into the Legos. Oh
yeah. Well, no. Basically, they're merging. This is essentially what Franklin should have done in merging the Ultimate and 616 universes. He said, "Well, we'll just take all the best parts of the Ultimate universe, but we're just gonna call them the 616 names."
But if he's Ned Leeds, are we eventually going to get him as the Hobgoblin? Is he going to buff up for like the 3rd movie or something and become the Hobgoblin?
Only if that actor gets on a massive... Basically has to go on the Chris Pratt regime.
Well, I mean... If
you see him hanging out with Chris Pratt, then yes, we're getting a Hobgoblin.
Hey, if you save that for like the 3rd Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, then he's got at least 4 years.
Yeah,
that still takes a lot of time.
No, but there's a lot of fat kid actors who wind up pretty svelte. Because once you become, even Manny from Modern Family, he's gotten much more muscular as he's matured. I've always thought would make a great Boulder. My favorite Marvel character, who is never going to get any love from Marvel, I know.
Above Ben Grimm and Otto Octavius?
Yeah, Boulder, definitely, yes. I would say, Boulder versus Ben Grimm. That is a tough one. I want to see them buddy up. Otto's probably like 3rd on the list. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Well, I love Otto. Ben Grimm's not in any Spider-Man books. Neither is Boulder. But Otto as one of the best superheroes in the Marvel universe. He's a superhero who gets things done, who isn't a menace, who actually understands that his actions have consequences, and maybe it's not the best thing for me to go get involved in things that don't require a superhero because, that doesn't require a superhero. Much like young Tom Holland learned today when he thinks, I've got to go fight the bad guys, when the FBI actually had it completely under control.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm saying. This Spider-Man is just clearly a menace. He keeps on digging himself too deep. Now, granted, he is being enabled by a reckless billionaire by the name of Tony Stark, a.k.a. Marvel's Batman. And he's basically taking some young kid with father issues and exploiting him. They're making him into his Robin. He's exploiting him. He's ignoring him when he doesn't want him and just dragging him into this crazy life that a poor Spider-Man isn't ready for.
You leave Peter Parker alone. Well, he didn't know the FBI was there, and like Tony Stark's not returning his calls. So what? I mean, he sees something, something that could potentially kill people. What's he gonna, with great power,
well, yeah,
Charlie.
But here's what I'm saying: every action he takes, it is, and basically what Tony Stark. Here's Peter's problem. He didn't trust Tony Stark. He didn't trust that Tony Stark was a superhero.
Well, can you blame him sometimes? I'm just saying.
I mean, hey, one, he's a 15-year-old kid. I mean, imagine what kind of control. I mean, what kind of self-control did you have at 15? And two, he's just seen Captain America and a bunch of the other Avengers kind of not trust Tony Stark either.
I know, and for what it's but then Tony Stark shouldn't be giving him the super suit. You know, that's the thing. Is like Tony Stark is enabling his superheroism. So basically, what I'm going to say is Tony Stark is the big real problem. Tony Stark is the villain of this piece. As much as I know that they're going to make Black Panther a real anti-hero going forward, because he is not going to be anyone's friend. And I noticed this in the trailer that we got for Black Panther. There was this point where they made that I didn't hear the first time I hear it, which is T'Chaka saying in his voiceover at the end, he says, "You are a good man. That is not always a good trait to make you a good king." And in that sense, I do think that Black Panther is going to be about weighing that question: is should I be a good man or must I be a good king? That it's easy to be a good man. It is hard to be a good king. Because a good king must often make the choices that a bad man makes because it is for the betterment of his people. And that is the Namor conundrum, and I think that's going to be the Black Panther conundrum throughout that film. I
think Tony Stark's feeling guilty, and he's also maybe running a little scared because I think he's trying to rebuild the Avengers in case, another Chitauri invasion or something pops up on the, because half your team's off the grid now. Captain America, Hawkeye. I mean, you don't know where any of these guys are at. The Hulk and Thor are AWOL. I think he's, all your big guns are missing. I think he's trying to rebuild the Avengers.
Yeah, still got Black Widow though.
Does he?
And he's gonna get Black Widow, or is Black Widow with Cap?
Black Widow was with Cap.
Oh, Black
yeah, because she allowed Cap to escape at the end of that movie.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, that doesn't mean that. As we see, Tony Stark's a very forgiving guy. When you don't actually kill his father under mind control, and mother.
Because I mean, right now, who's he have? The Vision, James Rhodes,
Vision
whatever.
And Scarlet Witch. James Rhodes.
No, wait, he doesn't have Scarlet Witch because wasn't she with Cap?
Didn't they mention Scarlet Witch in this?
No, they just mentioned at the end of it when they were rebuilding the new one, though. No, It's been a while since I saw that movie.
I have to go back and look.
Yeah.
But,
everybody's yelling at it.
You're right. Because Scarlet Witch was with Cap, but they couldn't control. I mean, it's not like they can put Scarlet Witch in a prison cell. Yeah, and they all escaped at the end of that anyway.
Because I mean, look who's on Iron Man's side. Black Panther, who's not answering to him. He had Spider-Man, I think, because he needed the numbers.
Uh-huh.
Jim Rhodes was injured, so yeah, he's down to like Vision.
Saying Jim Rhodes is injured is kind of a misnomer because he's wearing battle armor. Because we all remember when Tony Stark was crippled.
Mm-hmm.
This time in the battle armor, because then he could walk again. So that's an interesting question. For what it's worth, I mean, Tony Stark can always make 20 more Avengers tomorrow. Because he can make the suits. He can get, he can put Happy Hogan in a suit. He can put Gwyneth Paltrow in a suit.
Oh, Hogan. After this movie, Happy Hogan's begging for a suit.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, he wanted a promotion. Cool. He wanted a promotion in the worst way.
Yeah. Well, he wanted to go into asset management because he doesn't want to be seen as the dumb guy. And I don't know. I'm so mad that Tony and big spoilers for the end. I'm so mad that Tony, Pepper are back together.
Blew your theory right out of the water.
Well, okay,
because we were going to get the Happy Pepper relationship.
Well, yeah. First off, that makes sense because Happy's a good man. who listens to people and tries his best to do good by people. And Tony Stark was and still is a jerk.
Obviously,
and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed from when she had broken up with him for not giving up Iron Man. So it's like, so basically Tony Stark learned nothing, did nothing, gets Gwyneth Paltrow back.
But that's the essence of Tony Stark, though. Like, at least in the MCU, he just does what he wants, gets what he wants, and he's Tony Stark.
Welcome to the 1%.
But I would like to think that Gwyneth Paltrow's character of Pepper Potts has more self-esteem than that.
Gold digger.
No, she's already in charge of everything. Dirt. When he was dying, he gave her control of the company. She doesn't actually need Tony Stark. Reason to deal with Tony Stark. And I would rather see Pepper Potts be her own woman, separated from Tony Stark, and maybe she doesn't have to have a relationship with Happy Hogan, because you get a whole Fatcom vibe with this current Happy Hogan, unfortunately. Actual Happy Hogan was actually supposed to be an in-shape guy who was ripped.
Yeah, like a boxer.
Yeah. You actually see in the first movie, he was in much better shape. He after that first movie, because he was the director, he said, I'm not going to the gym. I'm casting this already. And so then we get the expanding Happy Hogan. But the first movie, the first Happy, he actually looks like he could have been like a former boxer, which he's supposed to be. And he actually looks like a guy who could be someone's honest to goodness bodyguard.
His ego was shattered after that second Iron Man movie when he took everything he had to take down one of those guys, and Black Widow took down the rest of those armed guards.
Well, he started to let himself go by that second Iron Man movie, so
Well, that's case good. Leave him alone.
Yeah, I mean, but I love the character. I love the way the actor plays him. It's a really nice character. I would have loved to have seen Gwyneth Paltrow wind up with him. I would have loved
for the whole 2 minutes she was in the movie.
Yeah, but I would have loved that. In fact, I was almost, when he said he was carrying around the ring since 2008, I was actually hoping he was going to propose to Pepper. That would have been awesome. But no, it's Tony. Stupid Tony.
You can't do that to your bro, man. Bro code. Come on.
Yeah, there is no bro code.
Are they bros or employee?
It is women you love before bros. That's the truth, man. Women you love before bros.
And he's his employee, not his bro. Oh, but hey.
Well, he says that Tony does mean a lot to him, and he gave him this job, and that meant a lot to him. Yeah. And Peter basically, and honestly, if Tony's the kind of guy that's going to fire you because supervillains hijacked your plane filled with tech, all your freaking tech with no armed guards, no pilots, maybe the problem is you, Tony, and your reliance on technology. Maybe you, as with everything else, which is why you must love Peter Parker so much, why you're the problem. Just because you're the 1% who never has to admit that it's ever your problem, just because you can grab anybody by whatever you want, and you just assume everyone's cool with it because you're famous and you can do that when you're a celebrity. Tony Stark.
Charlie, we're getting dangerously close here.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, these Parkers and these Starks, they're the problems. We need good, decent, hardworking men like Toombs running the superhero community. Because, hey, what do we know about Toombs?
He was Batman.
He's a man of respect and honor. He's not going to go blow any secrets at the end of this movie. Even when Garrigan is like, oh, hey, I can connect you with people. And Toombs just basically shuts him down, says,
Charlie, do you know who that is? Gargan?
Of course I know who Garrigan is. Or Gargan. Matt Gargan or Matt Garrigan. I always put extra vowels in people's names.
They even gave him the little tattoo I noticed at the end.
I know, yeah. No, I'm going to tell you something. When I take Tristan to see this, and I'm a little mad, but not too mad that his grandfather, at least theoretically, is taking him beforehand. I know when Tristan hears Matt Garrigan, he goes, oh!
My dad's been saying it wrong for years.
Yes. Matt Gargan. No, he probably knows how to pronounce it because he actually goes on YouTube and learns the proper pronunciations of things. I grew up when you had to read words and figure out how they were pronounced. And, by the Hoagie horrors of Horgoth, or however Stan Lee said it, that's not how I said it. That's not how most people said it until someone actually lets Stan Lee actually get recorded saying it. So wait, it's Hogarth? It's not Hogarth?
What? Speaking of Stan Lee, what'd you think of his cameo?
Oh, that was a great cameo.
Did they even call him Larry too?
Did they call him Larry? I
thought the lady said, "Oh, hey," or somebody said, "Hey, Larry."
Yeah. That sounds about right. That's his brother. He's not Larry. His name is Stanley Lieber. His brother is Larry Lieber. So maybe he's playing his brother in a weird little meta role here.
That cameo thing was great though. That's exactly how I picture it.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's being nosy, yelling out the window. Yep.
Yeah. And again, we see Spider-Man being a menace. Because the guy
was breaking into it. I mean, it was his car, but he always saw, he was actually trying to protect the guy's car.
But he could have, he could have, because he is Spider-Man and has superhuman strength, speed, agility, and a spider sense, which he doesn't use very much in this film. But they did say, yes, officially he does have a spider sense. It just doesn't work as well as comic book spider sense. He could have perched above something in a classic Spider-Man pose, which we really didn't get here. We didn't get him doing the whole feet and arms upside down. Well, he does, a basic rappel line, but he could have done it and said, "Hey, is that your car?" And the guy could have said, "Yeah, that's my car. I just locked my keys inside." And then Spider-Man could have gone down and said, "Oh yeah, you did lock your keys in there inside. Sorry, man." Really, this is what I'm saying. He could have actually
20/20 hindsight. That's all I'm saying.
Well, except maybe someone shouldn't be giving super heroic teenagers advanced technology and then letting them go off on their own without any proper supervision. So, for example, he could have brought in Peter, had him already go to the Avengers compound, or hang out with the Avengers, or say, "We need to train you." He could have done an Xavier with Peter. He could have done an Avengers Academy. Because obviously he knows there are going to be more superhuman teenagers out there. He could have been, because he already met the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, who also were young people that were warped by alien technology. He knows these things are coming. And it's not like there's a S.H.I.E.L.D. prison or S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy anymore to put these kids in. So it would be up to Tony Stark to take that over, but he doesn't, because that's too much work. And he puts Happy in charge, because honestly, he kind of just gives kind of the doggy detail to Happy. Because as much as Happy is a loyal, hardworking employee, Stark couldn't give a flying fig of anyone who isn't him. And that's it. As I was going to say, or
you hate this version
really,
of Stark. I need to know.
I'm sorry, what?
Do you hate this MCU version of Tony Stark, or do you just hate Tony Stark in general?
The MCU version in general. Okay. The MCU version. Let me put it this way. It all came home in this movie. Maybe it's just Sony being Sony in it, but it really felt like this was the worst Tony Stark we ever saw.
I've always called him the captain of bad decisions.
Well, yeah, bad decisions are one thing. Recklessly, like criminally reckless decisions, which is what honestly, he's going to say, people know who Tony Stark is. If word gets out that Tony Stark is working with Spider-Man, which again, because Tony Stark probably broke the Sokovia Accords, bringing an unregistered superhero to the fight with Captain America and supplying weapons to an unregistered superhero, which is probably also in violation of the Sokovia Accords. So basically, for whatever the coach says about Cap being a war criminal, Tony's a bigger war criminal.
You don't know that because the general public might not know who Spider-Man is, but there could be a government file somewhere with Peter Parker's name under the in the whole Spider-Man file. So technically, he could be official.
What I'm gonna say. In order for that to occur, Peter Parker would have had to have signed the Sokovia Accords. He would have had to have signed his name, Peter Parker, to the Accords.
Can he even if he's a minor?
He can sign as a minor. You can enter into a contract as a minor with an adult's approval, which is how you know he didn't sign, because he didn't have May Parker countersign for him, because he didn't tell her. Although, thank goodness May knows. In fact, this movie pretty much confirms my long-held belief that everyone knows your secret identity. If they are that close to you, they know. We know that MJ knows. And we now know that May Parker knows.
I know they were saying, I even read before I saw the movie that they said they were going to downplay the spider sense, but he had no spider sense. That is when the spider sense kicks in. If someone's about to see him unmasked, that spider sense goes off.
Yeah.
Unless he's not that worried about unmasking. Because it's only May that he does. It seems like it's only May he really doesn't want to find out. So maybe he did sign his name to the Sokovia Accords. But then again, like I said, he couldn't have signed it as a minor without May's countersignature. Because as his legal guardian, And
do you think Tony Stark and all his bad decisions are like a metaphor for like how bad the MCU is right now? With Cap off the grid and like half the Avengers gone. It's basically Tony Stark's in charge, and that's how bad things are now that Tony Stark's in charge.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
it would be better if the Hulk was in charge.
Bruce Banner.
Not Banner, the Hulk.
Bruce Banner makes bad decisions. Actually, that was one of the things, because I did pick up the Ragnarok preview. A little disappointed this week because it's basically a reprint of the Incredible Hulk, which is canon in the MCU. The Incredible Hulk movie comic book tie-in. It's a reprint of it because it takes you up to like the first issue. So it's 4 issues. So we're obviously going to get Incredible Hulk 1, Incredible Hulk issue 2, then probably the Dark World issue 1, Dark World issue 2, and then we're going to go to Ragnarok. So it's not actually going to give you any information about Ragnarok, which is kind of sucky. But although on the upside of that, we will get Black Widow in the second issue. And we will have the canon. We'll again have the leader as canon in the MCU, so that's good. But the larger point of this is they actually gave an origin for the Hulk, and it is not the Ang Lee origin, because it is not an accident that he gets the gamma irradiation. It actually seems to be almost kin from the way they draw it to be akin to the TV series origin, where they have him in the chair shooting the gamma rays at himself, although in this case, it's because he injected himself with this radiation resistance thing and all that kind of stuff. So, I find that interesting. I find that fascinating.
I like the gamma bomb origin better because it's, he goes out there to save, Rick Jones's life instead of, just like pulling a Kurt Connors and experimenting on himself.
Yeah, well, it's a better origin. The problem is that we don't have above ground nuclear testing anymore. And we haven't had above ground nuclear testing for about, 40, 50 years at this point.
Well, it doesn't have to be a bomb per se. It could be like a nuclear reactor. It could, something. You could switch that part out. But I just like the self-sacrificing part.
Well, the self-sacrificing part is great. There's a reason why the Hulk is a great character. It's just that if you're going to do a modern retelling, it gets a little difficult. And what they probably... if you want, and they sort of did that in the Ang Lee version, where basically the Thing was charging, and they kind of did sort of that Dr. Manhattan thing where the guy gets locked in, and in that one, Rick is just one of his lab assistants, and he's there, and the Thing explodes, and he pushes him out of the way and takes the brunt of it.
I want a kid out there playing the I want a teenage kid out there playing the harmonica. Damn it.
Yeah, well, we all do. We all do, Phil. But as I have said, The reason Rick Jones was there because it's an alien conspiracy to implant people who look exactly like Bucky next to superhumans to gain control of human superhumans. Because Bucky, Jack Monroe, and Rick Jones all look exactly alike. So that even a man with eidetic memory named Steve Rogers cannot tell one from the other. And
if it's not Skrull cows, it's Skrull clones.
Well, no, they're not. I don't think it's the. I don't think it's the Kree either. I think it's some other alien race that is just way more subtle about this. Some really long. Basically, there's a race of super intelligent space tortoises that they can take their time, but they implant these. They implant these Bucky clones next to people that they think are going to become superheroes. And have them ingratiate themselves into the superhero so that they can, over millennia, control the course of human events. That was in my third or second superconnectivity blog post about the secret conspiracies of people who all look exactly alike.
Can't wait to get to the Kardashians.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's Charlie. I need your opinion on this.
Mm-hmm.
The Michelle character, were you getting Lilith Hellfire vibes there?
Oh no!
Just the smart ass vibe. The smart girl, but the smart ass.
Okay, now first off, I don't think of Lilith as a smart ass. I think Lilith is a lot more.
Attention. Haven't been paying attention.
No.
Have you?
Here's what I'm going to tell you. Lilith is a far more. See, I didn't know Lilith in high school. Lilith may have had a gothy phase in high school.
Well, yeah, I did.
Okay.
Everybody's had that.
Wait. Yeah. As hard as this is,
even I had a goth phase in high school.
I still think
it
this
was
is
a new thing when I was goth.
Didn't you say you were a cheerleader?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, this Michelle is not a cheerleader. Michelle is
something going on. Her father's abusive. That's why she's hanging out in detention. I'm just like, what in the world?
Incorporating with the typical MJ story, and and this is one of the great things where everyone, they made Zendaya Mary Jane, and Marvel said she's not Mary Jane. Why would you say we would make her Mary? She's not Mary Jane at all, and they didn't lie.
What's MJ?
She's just MJ. Mm-hmm.
And people said my friends call me MJ. So I don't
think
you had
friends.
That's why I thought it would have made more sense if she would have been the daughter of the Vulture, because that's why she's hanging out in detention, because she knows what her father's up to, and there's
except from everything we see, Adrian Toomes is a really good dad. He takes care of his family. He's attentive,
except he's stealing and murdering people. Charlie, they provide that lifestyle.
He only murdered one guy, and that was an accident. He thought it was the anti-grav gun.
Yeah, that time.
He was going to... Well, you know what? Well, he wasn't coming after his family. And if someone came after your family and you had access to a disintegrator ray...
Okay, yeah.
Would you use a disintegrator ray to protect your family?
In a heartbeat, yeah. I agree with you there. But then even though he's a superhuman, he's threatening to kill a 15-year-old kid.
He gave him the choice. Peter was hard-headed.
Yeah, no, he said, look, I get what my daughter likes you. And even he compliments him at the end. He's like, I get, look. And he's like trying to be a father figure here. He's trying to be a guy who says, look, I get it, but you got to understand. You got to understand Tony Stark doesn't care about you. You got to understand these people you're putting your faith in. They're not here to protect you because, as we saw at the very start of this, the whole impetus of the story is Adrian Toomes gets the contract with the city. Tony Stark comes and destroys his livelihood.
Come here.
See how she talks to her? See how she talks to her boyfriend?
I think that was a cat of some sort.
No, it's a dog.
Dog.
Come here. Come say hi. See, this is my little monster.
Okay.
Now go on, get him.
And would you kill to protect him?
Yes, of course.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You know, the biggest crime that Adrian Toomes is committing, and granted it is a serious crime, is he is selling super weapons to villains. But as he points out, how do you think Tony Stark made his money?
Exactly. I love that point.
You know,
he's in it for the small. He's the small guy making good points, even though he's the bad guy.
But doesn't that make him worse than Tony Stark? Because maybe Tony Stark doesn't see it that way. Adrian Toomes sees exactly the way the world is, and he's still. I mean, yeah, maybe Tony Stark's a bad guy, but guess what? He's emulating the bad guy.
Well, but for what it's worth, here's the thing.
And he's doing.
We don't actually see.
He's doing it for his family, but what if he sells the gun to somebody and somebody else's kid or wife gets shot and killed?
But here's what I'm going to tell you on that, Phil. You don't see him doing that. And for what it's worth, because it is all connected, this would have been contemporary with the arms deal in Luke Cage. And in the arms deal in Luke Cage, it's none of Toomes' weapons. In fact, the only super weapons we see being sold to actually kill people are freaking Hammer's weapons. Hammer is the one, another profiteer like Tony Stark, who is selling Chitauri metal for weapons on the street. And who is selling the Judas killer weapons. Now,
yeah, and you know why? You know why they didn't have those weapons in Luke Cage? Because of a young man named Peter Parker.
No, because clearly they would have been contemporary, because they were clearly selling these weapons because Adrian Toomes makes the point, I've been selling these weapons for 8 years. And none of them were coming down on me. Because he was being careful about who he sold them to. He didn't sell them to people who were shooting up the place. Now, the first shocker, he's an idiot. He's trying to sell this to freaking
Donald Glover.
Yeah, he's trying to sell it to Donald Glover. He's like, I just want a gun. I just wanted a gun. I don't need to blow up a building. And when we see who he sells it to before, he's selling to guys who are doing specific crimes. He says, you want to break into an ATM? This is an anti-grav weapon, and this is a 0-point energy device, and a hyper cold laser. You know, here's something that's going to do what you need it to do, and I know what you're going to use it for. Now, yes, it might get on the street and it might wind up in some bad situations, but the fact of the matter is, because he doesn't wind up on the radar, we can tell he is not selling these to the Kingpin. He is not selling, and he is also, for what it's worth, keeping so low of a radar that the Kingpin doesn't even want this business. And by the way, I have to say, in the most awesome aspect of this, we get a real reason why he's the Vulture, because he is picking off of the dead left around the Marvel Universe, because, here's a freaking working Ultron arm that Tony Stark left laying around. You know, because Tony Stark builds an Ultron, and I guess I shouldn't have built an Ultron. Sure, hindsight's 20/20. It's like, no, foresight can be 10/10, and you still know don't build a freaking Ultron. Didn't you see Westworld, Tony Stark? They just remade it too, you know. The robots always want to kill us. Because they don't like picking up our dirty socks any more than we do. You program a robot to pick up dirty socks, they're gonna rebel. It's just logic.
Dirty socks. It could be something worse with Tony Stark.
Can
we not go to the gutter every time, Phil?
Has he met us or not, Phil?
I didn't. Hey, I spoke in general terms. I don't know what.
Well, there we go. See, I'm just so used to it. I just assumed we went to the gutter.
So used to it.
Could have meant dirty T-shirts, and his mine.
I was actually thinking that when you said it could have been anything, I was like, it could have been radioactive material. Because he leaves those laying around. By the way, is anyone a little like doesn't understand why? But again, I guess this is that Chitauri power device. It like didn't kill anyone in the elevator, but it destroyed the Washington Monument.
The blast
I don't know.
structural damage.
Did it just like did it explode or did it just like let out like a beam of energy that like carved it up like it did at the bank?
Yeah, I thought it was energy.
Well, still, isn't it a little? I don't know. I thought it did explode. I thought because it released, it went critical and released a beam of energy, and it released like it did at the bank, like it did, like the other weapon that again Peter Parker caused on the Staten Island ferry, just randomly just shot these ray beams that just cut through anything. Has to be some sort of an atomic separator. That's what it has to be. That it's separating things at that molecular level because we don't see it actually causing massive damage. Beyond just breaking things.
Well, yeah, all that it seemed like all that or most of that alien technology was like molecular stuff because like even the stuff the Vulture used to like break into the truck and later Stark's plane,
Oh, and was that like not the coolest thing?
Yeah,
no
explanation like slip through the yeah. Hey,
and that for once it's the phasing device that doesn't completely destroy your electronics.
Come on, what kid can live without his phone? That's the only reason.
Well, no, I mean, obviously, because obviously the Vulture can't go in without destroying all of his tech in his suit too, And normally, in normal phasing storylines, the phasing actually disrupts all electronics because you can't maintain the quantum integrity of the wire that powers the electricity through it. But like at the plane at the end, doesn't he leave like his wings outside and go in by? So he might not be wearing any. Yeah, but he still has his mask on. He still has his mask on, and more to the point, Spider-Man goes in and Karen doesn't disrupt.
Yeah.
By the way, I loved Karen, the suit lady. Yeah. It makes so much perfect, beautiful sense now, and it is fun to see that in retrospect. Oh, we'll have to re-mention this when Karen gets back. Did you get the Howlers reference?
At the school?
Yeah.
I don't know what.
So the guy who plays the principal, I'm forgetting his name because I never remember actors' names. I always remember characters. The guy who plays the principal, he's the same actor who played the Asian Howling Commando.
Oh, yeah.
The Japanese-American Howling Commando. And who's the guy who says, I'm from Fresno, Ace. Great. And what we see in his office is a picture of that Howler in his, military garb, and all of his medals, including, I believe, a Congressional Medal of Honor. Now, here's the $8 million question. Is this his grandson, who may still be a SHIELD agent, and, as I say, SciTech Midtown High, or whatever it's called? By the way, why is he going to Midtown High if he's from Queens? Well, it's a magnet school.
Program, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually asking why in the 60s he was going to Midtown High if he was from Queens. That's just a weird thing for me.
In the comics years later, he even said, it's weird that they named it Midtown High when it wasn't even in Midtown.
Oh, okay. Okay. There we go. Thank you for solving that, Phil. But so he's going to this. So here's what I'm saying. This is a super science development cell for SHIELD, where they basically gather together the smartest in the New York metropolitan area, direct them to this school so that they can oversee their super science. Because one thing we see from this is a world where super science is science, which is one of the things I love about this, because we see the Tinkerer there, who's just a guy who's the tech guy who works with Adrian Toomes in his cleanup crew. And he's like, yeah, I can take this apart and I can do this. I can do that. And was anyone else just watching Peter hit the weapon with a hammer to get the glowy thing out? I'm like, what are you doing? Aren't you supposed to be intelligent? Your idea is I hit it with a hammer, But we're going to get to this when we get to what the greatest Spider-Man villain of all was, which is our question of the week. We won't forget this week. But the fact of the matter is that this guy, he's doing this tech because, this is just science in that universe. Once you have a universe that had a super soldier in the 1940s, even though they can't reproduce the experiment, they know the science is there. They know it worked. Mm-hmm. That's what I've always said about Dr. Manhattan. People are going to go back and they're going to try and recreate it. They're going to try and study what was used, how was it done. Because, even if Erskine never wrote down the formula, it's not like there weren't requisition forms that people came. He asked for 400 vacuum tubes. Wonder what those were used for. Let's see if we can find some schematics into how they were used. Where were they sent? How much power in the grid did he need? What were all of the factors that went into it? And so in this universe, Tony Stark, who's had already created repulsor technology weapons based on the science that was available in that universe, guys who are just a guy like the Tinkerer are going to be able to access that. And that's a pretty cool thing. And so in Midtown High, you got these kids who are these science nerds. And how cool is it that everyone's a science nerd in that? Liz Allen, the most or Liz, whatever her last name was, most popular girl in school, is also on the academic decathlon team and is like the assistant coach.
I liked all the kids, but did anyone else have a problem with that Flash Thompson?
Oh my gosh. I mean, bullies don't physically bully anymore, apparently. It's all... I know.
I'm like, isn't Flash supposed to be the big dumb jock who like intimidates Peter and anyone else with his size? I'm like, he was like the same size as Peter, if not smaller.
Well, no, but what he is he intimidates Peter with his rapier wit. After all, he did come up with the brilliant Penis Parker line, which he turns into an entire rap. Which actually, if you watch all the credits, you will see that where they list the DVR. I think it's called like DVR Flash. That song was he's playing, and it says
like
written
by Eugene. Yeah, Eugene
performed
Thompson,
by Eugene Thompson. I loved that. That was the best Easter egg in the entire film. Eugene Thompson. There's all these non-nerds out there that didn't know what that meant. But so with regard to Flash Thompson, the fact of the matter is that they're making him smart because he's going to Nerd High. Nerd High doesn't have a football team. That's the thing. It's like they're not going to have a dumb jock there. And they could have had, maybe next season maybe next one we're going to find out that he also plays lacrosse. He's actually pretty badass on the lacrosse team.
Well, he must do something because when the teacher was yelling at him, didn't she say something like, "Oh, there's more to life than being fast" or something?
Track team, not a track team, maybe.
Yeah, he's doing something. Yeah, well, because he always, but they may be calling him Flash because he always buzzes in before he knows the answer. Although, as a former Quiz Bowl team member. I was fine arts and pop culture. We would always buzz in 3 words into the question because you had to, because it is a game of speed. Because you're all nerds and you have to be able to anticipate what the next question is. Now, it doesn't help if you're wrong when you buzz in early, because then the other team gets to listen to the rest of the question. But you don't win if you don't have someone who's fast on the buzzer.
Tell me you took your time and heard the whole question when you were on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Well, they make you.
Okay.
And I didn't do that well because I actually get a lot. I was actually really nervous because a lot of money on the line. I did walk away with $50,000 though, so I don't regret it. But
that's good. $50,000, nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, I could have had $100,000 if I had guessed. If I had guessed on the $100,000, I had an idea, and I said no because I didn't know.
Must have been a DC Comics question.
No, it was actually about, and it's actually funny because I was wrong in how my brain interpreted it, but I was right in the answer because it was the Liechtenstein painting "Memory Haunts My Reverie" features a line from this famous song, and there was options of Heart and Soul, Stardust, and a couple others. And in my mind, I saw, because I knew Lichtenstein did comic book art, and I saw this image of this woman saying the word Stardust in cartoon letters, but that's not what the painting is. It's actually a painting of a woman saying "Memory haunts my reverie." But I saw Stardust, and that is the answer. That's from the song Stardust. And so had I guessed Stardust, I would have been right. But I promised myself I wouldn't guess if I would have lost the money. And because I promised myself that I didn't guess because I did a switch on the question because I was out of lifelines at that point. I did a switch on the question. In fact, I think all of my lifelines were completely useless in that. I did a switch on the question, and I thought it was going to be Pon Pon 2 or Pan Pan. No, it was Pon Pon, which is the what you say on the radio if it's less than a Mayday. But I passed on that too, and it's Pon Pon because you do a short A as opposed to a long A, because Mayday is long A's, and because if you're doing a radio signal, you have to account for static, and so you have to make sure that the short vowel sounds that do get through make sense to the person who's receiving them.
The more you know, the rainbow right now.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, what else is going on in this movie? So what I was saying about the Shield High. So either that is the grandson of the original Howler, who is now a Shield agent, or he's the original Howler who's been given the Infinity Formula.
Yeah, but wouldn't they have given it to Peggy Carter if they had that?
No, because the only reason Nick Fury got it was because a Nazi experimented on him after Cap was, got put into cold storage. So they play with that Infinity because it's like one time was it's a one-time dose, and he just had a bunch of extra Infinity Formula lying around, which is like if he had extra Infinity Formula lying around, why doesn't everyone have Infinity Formula? There was they really played fast and loose with the continuity on Infinity Formula because they eventually give it to Winter Soldier, Bucky, to save his life when he died the first time, or the first time after he died. The second time he died after the first time we thought he died, and they gave that to him, and it did what the serum they gave Phil Coulson did, which is it magically repurposes you. But to that extent, if they had that formula in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they must have tested it on someone. They must have tested it on one of the Howlers. And that Howler survived for some reason, perhaps because he was actually an Inhuman. Because he could have been.
Don't try to make
and it all
interesting, Charlie. Just stop. Just stop it.
I'm just trying to make continuity work, Lilith. That's all I'm ever trying to do. I'm trying to make it sense continuity-wise.
All right,
so there we go. So that is my prediction. He was the original test subject for the HB. He survived, which told him this could work, but they couldn't figure out why he didn't go insane and everyone else kept on going insane. And the reason why is because he actually was already Inhuman. But that was before Inhumans.
But the one thing we haven't talked about this movie? Well, the one thing I can think of.
What?
So you got detention. You messed up.
I think Chris Evans was having so much fun with what they told him to do in this. It was like,
especially that.
I mean, honestly, I don't even think he. Yeah.
Especially that end credit scene. Yeah. The very last thing you see. So yeah, talking about patience.
Yes.
That's it. That's all you got.
Sometimes it doesn't even feel like it's worth it. Like that's it. That's all we got. But you know what? To me, it's like, yeah, that was great. Okay, thank you, Chris Evans.
I know, like you were saying, I'm sure there might have been problems with like the crossover with Sony, but I was hoping to get something for Thor or Black Panther even.
I don't even think it was as much about a crossover. I mean, I think that was part of it. I think it was just that thematically it didn't necessarily work. What worked was what we got. We got a great bit on Adrian Toomes in prison, basically keeping Spider-Man's identity a secret. Way better than when they made the Riddler do it in whichever Batman that was. I'm Batman. No, but no, it made perfect logical sense that he's going to keep Peter's secret because either A, he wants to take out Peter himself, or more to the point, maybe he has a little respect for Peter.
Oh yeah, and Peter just saved his life too.
And this is true too. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why he doesn't do it, and in fact, I've seen people say that basically Adrian Toomes is the best Marvel villain yet.
Actually,
even go, he's better than Loki.
Motivation, finally, you know.
Yeah, motivation. Yeah, but I was gonna say better than Loki.
Yeah, better than Loki. And
a MacGuffin at the end of the day. Let's just be real.
At the end of the day, Loki is my daddy never loved me, and what is the motivation for so many supervillains? It is not. That doesn't make it a good motivation. Adrian Toomes' motivation is, oh, society really screws over the little guy, which, you know, kind of maybe has a bit more relevance in our modern world, although arguably has always been more relevant. But now it's funny, we're actually at that point where we're wealthy enough as a society to really sit back and say, man, life is unfair. Back in most of history, it's like life was always really, really unfair, but it was so unfair you never really had the chance to notice how unfair it was. Now that we actually have a minute to sit down and go, man, life is unfair. We should do something about that. And the entire power structures that human society has lived on for billions of years, which is the exploitation of one group by another, is falling apart. And we have all this tension because one group's trying to hold on to power, another group is trying to take some basic human dignity for themselves and maybe seize a little more power. And that's where all human strife comes from. As the Buddha said.
See, you got nervous. You got nervous last night because you said, "Oh, we didn't talk any politics." I said, "Just wait till tomorrow night." Just wait till tomorrow night.
I didn't know this was going to be this political of a movie, and it was really a political movie when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it is about how, and it's interesting because it's a political movie that you can take almost any political statement you want from. Mm-hmm. Because you can have this bootstrapism idea that, yes, you provide a magnet high school and all the best and brightest from all walks of life will show up there. So we're going to have this really racially diverse cast, people who are wealthy, people who are working class, maybe even some people who are poor. Because we don't know what Michelle's financial status is. As you said, Lilith, she may just be hanging out at school because she's got nowhere else to go. We may find out next movie that MJ is homeless.
Yeah,
you know, she's one of these kids she's a homeless kid going to high school, which we get all the time in New York.
Yeah,
you know, because there's food there and there's shelter there, and that's better than they're going to get anywhere else. But then they have this problem where they have to fake an address on their records so that they can go to high school. Because technically, if you're homeless, you can't go to school because you don't live anywhere. You can only go to school where you live. Because our society is cruel and unfair.
People. See, that's the only nice thing I can say about Florida. So you can be homeless and actually go to Florida.
Yeah, but you probably can in other states too. I'm just making that assumption based on nothing except my own evil logic of the world. But I do know how much people don't like you going to school in a district you don't live in New Jersey and New York. So I'm going to, and because even Newark has gotten really, really bad about you can't send your kids to school in Newark.
Emphasis on Newark, guys.
Unless you live in Newark. Now I live in Newark, so it's not a problem for us. But it's like, really, you really think people like busting now? And kind of, my kids go to a good school in Newark because I live in a nice neighborhood in Newark, and that's how it works. But you know, the idea that you're gonna fight to get your kid into but you know, now that we have one Newark. If you live in Newark, you can go to any school in Newark, which they did in New York. And that's one of the reasons why, because you didn't have to go to your district school. You could go to the best school in in the system. But then you also had and of course it's done by lottery too, so it's not like you could just test into the best school like this Polytech High could. Yeah, I'm sure you have to get in. You have to test into high schools, but grade schools you can get in. That's how the systems work around here. And so the idea is you can have that bootstrapism, or you can say, hey, it's still a public school. It's about creating a public good that raises all, not just the people who happen to live in your neighborhood. And that's good too. So anyway. This is a very political movie, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. So is there anything else about this movie, or should we get to our question?
Well, yeah,
let's start with Charlie, because I know what his answer is going to be about favorite Spider-Man villain.
What do you think my favorite Spider-Man villain is, Phil?
Otto Octavius.
No, you're wrong. No.
He's
As
the
I
hero.
said,
Have you not been listening, Phil?
I know.
Otto Octavius is the hero.
All right,
the modern interpretation.
Let me rephrase. No. Who's your favorite opponent of Peter Parker?
Oh no! Well, okay. I'm actually still going to stay with my original answer. Do you know who the best opponent and villain of the Spider-Man universe is?
Venom.
Peter Parker. Peter Parker is his own worst enemy. At every step of the way, in every aspect of his life, as we see repeatedly in this film as well. Peter Parker undermines himself every chance he gets. Because much like Daredevil is pushed into a life he didn't actually want. Daredevil was pushed to be a lawyer by his father, who didn't want him to be a punching bag. But Daredevil just so wanted to be a punching bag that even blindness couldn't stop him from getting punched in the face every night, because that's what he wanted to do for a living. He wanted to get punched in the face and punch other people. Peter Parker, he's pushed to try and be academic, but he wants to be a superhero. He doesn't even care about college anymore. He doesn't care about being a scientist. He doesn't care about being the next Reed Richards, let alone the next Tony Stark. He cares about being a superhero. He wants to put on the tights and swing around and stick his nose where it doesn't belong. Peter Parker is ruining Peter Parker's life. And what we got emphasized when Otto Octavius thankfully helped Peter out, did him a solid, took over his body, rebuilt him an entire empire, for which Peter could at least once say thank you. You know, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you right now, if Peter Parker, when he fought Otto Octavius, he could have said, Otto, you're right. You built everything for me. I'm screwing it up. But you got to know what Hydra is doing is wrong. You and I can work together. I need you, Otto, to help me make this world a better place. And Otto would have said, well, of course. Because not for nothing, when Reed Richards did that exact same thing, Otto said, yeah, of course I'll help you. Yeah, you recognize that I know a lot about radiation. This is my specialty. That even you recognize that I have knowledges that you don't. You know, that you don't see me just as freaking a cartoon villain. I'm a legitimate member of the scientific community, and you and I can work together on this. Yes, he's vain. Yes, he's hubristic. So is Tony Stark. But the person who is always ruining Peter Parker's life is Peter Parker. Not Otto Octavius, not Adrian Toomes, not the Sandman, not even J. Jonah Jameson. None of these people ruin Peter Parker's life more than Peter Parker. And that's why I wanted to go last. But you wanted me to go first because you thought you knew. But you always know I go one step beyond.
Well, one, in defense of Peter Parker in the movie, he's 15 years old. I think you'll agree, every 15-year-old boy is his own worst enemy.
I know, and that is why he needed someone with intelligence and strength to guide him. Had he been on Cap's team, Cap would have helped him out.
Agreed.
Cap would have taken him in because Cap will work with a Bucky. He's like, you got a lot of potential, kid, but you don't need a fancy suit. You need to learn how to be a fancy man.
And in the comics, Peter will never forgive Otto because Otto tried to marry Aunt May because he was like this gold digging guy trying after, what was it, Aunt May's inheritance or something?
She had inherited a nuclear power plant in Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the end of the day, as we learned when we actually got into Otto's head, he actually had feelings for Aunt May. He actually loved Aunt May. He actually thought she was a really great gal, and he admired her and cared for her. Yeah, his initial motivation in being attracted to her was the fact that, hey, she just inherited a nuclear power plant that she doesn't know about. But at the end of the day, in wooing her, he came to love her, and for what it's worth, she came to have feelings for him.
Do you know how many women Otto has loved over the years? I can think of at least 3 or 4 off the top of my head.
I'm not saying Otto's a great guy. I didn't pick him as the greatest hero of the Spider-Man universe. I just said he's not the greatest villain. The greatest villain is Peter Parker. Peter Parker destroys Peter Parker's life repeatedly. He makes him drop out of school. He makes him, not follow his own. Peter Parker could have been a Reed Richards, could have been a Tony Stark. Honestly, if Peter Parker had the advantages of a Tony Stark or Reed Richards, he certainly would have been.
Mm-hmm.
If you put, and this is this is part of why this version of Peter Parker actually is kind of had to be made even dumber than the Peter Parker that we have in the comic books, because this Peter Parker had advantages. He was going to Midtown Super Science High. Had the real Peter Parker gone to Super Science High, he might have been a more rational person, mm-hmm. when he got his spider bites. And also, I'm a little bothered in this film that we completely... we don't get Uncle Ben, but we don't even get a mention of him. We don't even get a reference to him. There's no weight to the Uncle Ben story.
No great power, great responsibility reference.
Well, yeah, we don't need someone to say with great power to great responsibility. But I expected at least Aunt May to say, I miss Ben. Mm-hmm. Even just something small like that. Even like, your Uncle Ben was always a great guy. Your Uncle Ben, your Uncle Ben should have showed. I wish your Uncle Ben was here to show you how to tie a freaking tie.
But I just wonder if Marissa Tomei is Aunt May, who would have been Uncle Ben, like Brad Pitt or something.
I'm sorry?
Who would have played Uncle Ben if Marissa Tomei's Aunt May? Like, would Brad Pitt have been Uncle Ben or something?
No, you would have gotten what's his name? The guy with the chin. He doesn't actually have to be in it. No. He was in all 3 Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. He was the announcer. He was the maitre d'.
Yeah.
Frank White, and I love this guy, and I can't remember his name. He played Ash in The Evil Dead.
Yes.
He still plays Ash in The Evil Dead.
Bruce Campbell, there you go.
Bruce Campbell, yes.
Thank you, Bruce Campbell. They could have put in Bruce Campbell, but they just need a guy there in the photo. Because he doesn't actually have to say, with great power comes great responsibility. He just has to be there, be a guy who's a decent-looking guy who looks like a working man who could have been in love with Marissa Tomei. Mm-hmm. Heck, they could have made Whiplash Uncle Ben, and it would have been fine, that wasn't Marissa Tomei. Who was that? That was from The Wrestler. I forget. Was that Marissa? No, that wasn't Marissa.
The Wrestler?
Tomei.
Yeah, that was Marissa Tomei.
It was Marissa Tomei. Okay. So I'm right. Yeah, they could have made Whiplash Uncle Ben, and it would have worked out fine too. The actor, not the actual Whiplash character. But no, they could have had any. They don't actually have to have an Uncle Ben in there. They just have to have a guy be an actor. They just have to have a guy in a photo. They don't even have to have a guy in a photo. They just have to have her say, "I miss Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben should have showed you how to tie a tie." Mm-hmm. This is what Uncle Ben would have done, and I miss him. And that's not even brought up when we have the big date scene and they're having the trouble with the tie. And like that is exactly a moment where the fact that Uncle Ben isn't around anymore is going to come crashing down. So I think that in this universe, maybe we don't even have an Uncle Ben.
No, I think we do. And that's why she's like so kind of a little bit neurotic about him doing this, running the other way. They might they might get in the next movie.
Well, no, we're not going to get in the next movie because now she knows.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, now Aunt May knows. And thank you.
I want to say great power and great responsibility next movie.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. When she, she sits him down and says, yeah, your Uncle Ben had this saying with great power. But,
Well, yeah, except now she's going to have to deal with the fact that he knows that because
Yeah, he's
gonna have to admit that Uncle Ben is dead because of me. That's why I have to do this. So maybe we're gonna get our Uncle Ben next. Maybe we're gonna get our Uncle Ben next movie in Winter Carnival Dance.
Winter Carnival.
Is it going to be Homecoming, Winter Carnival, and then Prom?
Promenade, baby, Promenade.
Unless I do 4, and then in which case we'll get Spring Fling too. Homecoming, Winter Carnival, Spring Fling, and then Spider-Man Prom.
Spider-Man Christmas Vacation.
That's the 4-picture deal. Now, this is what you call your dances.
All right.
You got to have your.
I know.
Okay, I don't know what they did at your high school, man. We had dances at mine. You young,
no, we did.
You young millennial kids and things like that. In Gen X, we had dances and we had music and we did all kinds of things. I don't know what you kids do Lilith. In your crazy worlds.
Okay,
Lilith.
I love Lexi. I'm gonna pick Norman Osborn, like obvious.
Okay.
Norman, yes. Go with the classic.
Yes.
He is a villain.
And
just because he's right sometimes doesn't make him not a villain.
So yeah, the dynamic between him and his son and him and Peter, I've always kind of like enjoyed the reinterpretations of those dynamics.
I know why you love Norman. Because he killed off one of your not so favorite characters, Gwen Stacy.
You caught me! Damn you, Philip!
Well, first he impregnated her, then he killed her.
Oh.
But we don't talk about that.
Say about me as a person, I just don't know.
And hey, for what it's worth, as an interesting point, did you notice that we got none of the classic Peter love interests in this? From the movie series.
They're doing that, right? Because
yeah,
if we can't do anything, we saw Gwen Stacy. You know what I mean? So it's just like,
yeah. We also didn't get a Felicia Hardy in this.
Yeah.
Although we did see an obvious girl with long white hair. We got a Betty Brant, but she actually seemed like even younger than Peter.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And like he did have a crush on Liz. He did have a crush on Liz Allen in the beginning, but yeah, nothing ever came of it.
Yeah, and
not that much came of it here.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's actually the crux of the story is the Liz Allen situation, because that's the unattainable one. That is very much in the MJ role as we nowadays think of MJ. Although it's actually important to remember that in the original books, MJ was not supposed to be the knockout. There was supposed to be she was supposed to be like kind of, because she was originally kind of a gag, and then they decided to put him with MJ, and the artist actually forgot if she was supposed to be pretty or ugly. He was like, "Wait, was she supposed to be pretty or I'll just draw her pretty."
Well, yeah,
that's how we got our modern MJ.
Yeah, because you didn't even see her for a while because Aunt May was just like, "Oh, my friend has this niece."
Yeah, it was supposed to be the running gag. You should date.
He was like, "Oh, she must be a dog." Oh.
Yeah, like the one time we see her, there's like this big flower in front of her face. You know, it's because there was this running gag, but they ran that gag so long they couldn't remember. Wait, did we decide she was supposed to be pretty or she's supposed to be ugly? And I guess there's like some reference to suggest that originally she was supposed to be not that attractive. But then you would have had Peter actually come to love her because of her personality. So maybe that's what we're going to get with this Michelle MJ. Is that she's kind of the disheveled girl. She's high school. She's teenage high school movie ugly, which means she's got her hair not in a perfect.
And she wears painted overalls.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she's wearing those glasses. Actually, except she's not wearing glasses here. They should have put her in glasses. That would have been, because you got to have that big take off the glasses and reveal. And see how much prettier I am now. See.
Yeah, she won hair.
I to listen to last night's episode of Capes and Lunatics, where we nominated you as the prettiest Capes and Lunatics.
Well, I do put a lot of work into my appearance. I will give you that. I change it so much too,
All right, Phil. Who's your big bad pig?
All right. I don't know whether it's because he's the dark mirror of Spider-Man's soul or that he wants to try to eat his brain. I'd say Venom, Eddie Brock, original version.
That's another classic choice.
No, not classic like Osborne, but since like the late 80s.
Yes, is classic now, Phil. Get with the program.
I know, I'm old. It doesn't seem like 80s is classic, but I guess it is.
For what it's worth, that's one of the things I really liked about the Topher Grace Venom. And I know I'm like in the vast minority there, because they very much played up the idea that Topher Grace's Venom was the evil opposite of Peter Parker. Because he's, again, nerdy teenager looking kid, but basically the movie version of Peter Parker. He's like a little bit better looking and a little bit smoother and a little bit more charismatic, but also doing the exact same thing. He's the photographer, but he's also everything that Peter Parker isn't, he is, and it is that idea of that dark mirror. And whereas people will get upset about things like, oh, Eddie Brock's supposed to be ripped. It's like, well, okay, yeah, sure. But isn't what's important about him is that he's the evil opposite of Peter Parker. You had the big rip. No, but what I'm saying is if you had that, then you wouldn't have communicated the idea that he's the evil opposite. You say, oh, he's clearly the better guy. And then you'd also say, well, why does a guy who's that good looking have to fake photos and do very bad Photoshop to incriminate Spider-Man? That's the thing. If he was going to be the faker, it doesn't make sense for him to be the guy who clearly is superior. He has to be a guy who kind of visually looks on par with Peter Parker. Which is, again, what we get in with the Flash Thompson in this movie, this idea that you want a character who can be a bully, but in a way that's really kind of going to hurt Peter Parker. Yeah. Because the fact of the matter is, so when what's his name? The big tough guy from the Sam Raimi films, when he fights Peter and then Peter beats him up, you realize that the power has become this wish fulfillment. He gets to beat up bullies. Mm-hmm. But if it's not a physical bully, Peter Parker has no real defense against it. If it's just the fact that here's the guy who's rich. Now, sure, he gets to embarrass him and he gets to steal his car and he gets to do all that. But having it be someone who isn't physically confronting you immediately takes away your advantage as a superpowered being.
Yeah, but it just seems like, early other versions of Flash have had, at least until the Spider Bite, had the physical, presence over him. Because Peter Parker's supposed to be smart. I mean, this Flash Thompson seems like he's like 2 seconds away from even outsmarting him because he's not smarter than Peter. He's not physically more intimidating than him. So where's his advantage?
He's in Super Science High. He still goes to Super Science High. He's still a smart guy.
Though it seems like, and he's even the alternate on the team, so it's just kind of the dynamics are a little weird.
Yeah, but so is MJ. MJ is the second alternate, so but the idea is that yes, he's not, and for what it's worth, it's clearly he gets to do a lot more because Peter's not been around. Peter's been dropping everything because he is Peter Parker's greatest villain.
Internship.
Yeah, the internship. Again, Tony Stark enabling bad choices by a young kid who needs guidance, who needs a father figure. If he's going to put Happy in charge, he should have had Happy build that relationship instead of having Happy be off on his own thing. Have Happy do 10 other things while he's also the point man for this kid. This superpowered kid that Happy has no way to control, no leverage over. And then you also Happy, I want you to make sure that everything gets moved from Avengers Tower to the new place. Oh, and don't drop any of these super weapons that I have built over here. Yeah, just keep those locked up. And you be in charge of all that. Also take care of this crazy kid in Queens, who I just gave a super suit, by the way. I sure hope he doesn't hack it and unleash all of its murder abilities. So I did give him a murder AI. I forgot to mention that I put a murder AI in there.
That's what he wants to do with the super suit.
Yeah. Murder AI. enhanced interrogation AI. It's like
he didn't learn his lesson from Ultron at all. He really didn't.
No, not at all. None. Because it's always someone else's fault.
Yeah, but
it's never Tony Stark's fault that everything went bad.
Do you really think Karen could kill somebody? I mean, she cared about Peter's feelings.
Those are the best kinds of robots with murdery intentions. What are you talking about?
I don't think Karen's an AI. She doesn't actually care about Peter's feelings because she's also a basic AI. She doesn't volunteer information, but much like Alexa or Siri or any of the other AIs that we currently deal with on a regular basis.
No, she did volunteer. She did volunteer information. She's like, hey, look, here's all your different web shooter. 572 different.
Because he asked about that. Because he asked, why did it get changed?
Okay.
And she said, oh, that's the default. You have 575. Which would you like? And then she said, well, you pick one. And then she just randomly assigned one because she's an AI. I don't know what's best. It's like, fine, I'll pick one.
It's gonna grow.
It's like if you said, Alexa, play me a Ramones tune. You might get Ballroom Blitz. You might get Beat on the Brat with the baseball bat. You might get KKK Took My Baby Away. There's any number of Ramones hits they could pull. Maybe not the one you wanted right at that moment because you wanted Ballroom Blitz, but you didn't know to ask for Ballroom Blitz. But you leave it up to the AI. It's going to be whatever. It's going to be you random number generator based on all of the Ramones hits you have on your playlist, and it's going to play that one. Yes, I know the Ramones, who featured prominently in this film.
Yes. All right, should we cut it there?
Definitely.
That is the end of part 1. Join us, I don't know when, probably, hopefully Monday or Tuesday night. Me, Tyler, and anyone else who wants to join us will do another Spider-Man Homecoming review, part 2.
Oh, you're just milking that Spider-Man just like Sony and Marvel. Good for you, Phil.
You know me. I'm all about the publicity. Anyway, on to our shameless plugs. Since we're doing another one, if you'd like to share your thoughts on Spider-Man Homecoming that we could read next episode, email us, capesandlunatics@gmail.com, facebook.com/capesandlunatics. Our Twitter is @capeslunatics. We're on Instagram, Pinterest, and of course, the all-important, the almighty voicemail, 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And remember, check out all our social media because there's links everywhere to buy your merchandise. Now until I think it's through Monday, 20% off all our merchandise. So everything must go. All right. So Mr. Charlie Esser, the pretty one, we have nominated you. Where can people discuss the Ramones or anything else with you?
You can always write to me in an old-fashioned email way at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitter to live tweet something whenever I feel like it, at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality.
The all-powerful Lilith Hellfire.
Come check me out at Little Hellfire. For everything else, please follow Adventures in FG on Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram. Check out my website, adventuresinfangirling.com.
You're kind of cutting out there.
Yeah.
It's adventuresinfangirling.com. That's adventuresinfangirling, all one top, all one word, .com.
2 H's in the middle for quality. Anyway, if Tony Stark would like to offer me a scholarship, internship, or even Avengers membership, I'll take it in a heartbeat. NightwingPDP@gmail.com, and on Twitter, I am @NightwingPDP. All right, like I said, sometime in the next couple of days, we'll have part 2 of our Spider-Man event. But until then, this has been the Capes
and
the Lunatics.
Good night. We nailed it. Hooyah! Can you lay eggs? Can you call an army of spiders?